I'm David Foster, the Executive Director of the BlueGreen Alliance, and on behalf of the Conference Coordinating Committee and the 31 organizations that have worked hard to plan this program, and on behalf of the 178 convening organizations and businesses who have publicized this event, among their members, I want to welcome you to our 6th annual Good Jobs, Green Jobs Conference. Now, we've worked hard to organize this event in order to address our two most persistent structural problems. On the one hand, chronic unemployment that's ripping the fabric of our communities apart, and on the other, an intensifying and destabilizing climate that is dramatically disrupting our economy and putting us all at risk. We hear these stories from every corner of our economy. Iron ore boats, which have had to cut their cargo by 10% on the Great Lakes because water levels have dropped so significantly in their locks and ports. Meatpacking plants closing in Texas because persistent drought has made cattle grazing impossible. Forestry jobs eliminated because of pine bark beetle infestations. And tourism jobs eliminated by erratic snow seasons. Far too often we hear that we can't fix one problem without worsening the other. That the only way to create jobs is to increase the pollution that causes the droughts, the wildfires, and the superstorms. Or that the only way to cut the pollution is to lay off employees in our factories, power plants, and go back into a recession. Well, we're here today, once again, to shout down this myth. We do believe we can have good jobs and a clean environment, don't we? And not just a few jobs, millions of jobs. And the proof is right in front of us. Now, not that long ago, and all of you remember this, the U.S. auto industry was in free fall. Some thought we were witnessing the end of the American automotive industry and that there was no path back. And there were some people who shrugged, some of them ran for president, called it the creative destruction of the free market. They thought it was a good thing. But thankfully, there were others like Bob King and the United Auto Workers who rolled up their sleeves and said there was another way. Are there auto workers in the house? And thankfully, there were far-sighted advocates for the environment like the Union of Concerned Scientists, the National Wildlife Federation, NRDC, the Sierra Club. All of them believed we needed an American-made car that could get over 50 miles to the gallon. And thankfully, there were smart regulators like Lisa Jackson at the EPA and her team of engineers, dedicated, far-sighted legislators like Fran Pavley from California, who's with us today. And lastly, let's celebrate that there were companies like General Motors who weren't willing to be carved up in the bankruptcy process and sold off to scrap metal, to vulture investors, and instead took on the engineering challenge of the Chevy Volt and the Chevy Cruze, and you can go out and drive them on your brakes today. You know this story. It's labor, environmental organizations, businesses, and government coming together and committing themselves to smart, forward-looking regulations and solving the problems that have now made the U.S. auto industry the envy of the world again. Created over 1 million jobs in less than 2 years, including hundreds of thousands of them in manufacturing, and not just in auto plants. It put the iron ore miners in northern Minnesota back to work. And it gave a future to aluminum extruding workers in plants like those in Bellwood, Virginia, on the verge of closing down, who are now making aluminum drive shafts for lightweight vehicles. It put money in workers' pockets who could buy health care again, clothes, food, pay local taxes. That's what got our economy moving again. It's not a story of one side winning and another losing. It's the story of how we always solve big problems in America by working together and then by sharing in the results. So that auto industry recovery is a lesson for all of us. There is a way for us to stop the slide in America toward a future with crumbling roads and bridges, power grids that fail repeatedly in the face of increasingly violent storms, water systems that leak billions of gallons of drinkable water but can no longer handle the storm surges of rising sea levels, or transit systems that provide too few options for too many people to get back and forth from work and family. By fixing all these things and fixing them the right way, we can create the millions of jobs our families need, prepare for the worsening impacts of climate change, and avoid the worst ones that are on the horizon. But, you know, most of you here today, you know all these things. Most of you, I suspect, feel like me. We fought too hard to get a president reelected who believes in the science of climate change to now end up doing nothing to correct the problem. We fought too hard. We fought too hard to elect other public officials who recognize the challenges in front of us, to then move too slowly to make a difference, or to leave a generation of our young people with no hope for jobs or careers. We know we face a difficult challenge as a country with a divided Congress where failure seems preferable to compromise, but that doesn't entitle us to shrug and go home and give up. We've got to have a strategy and response. And even a country as divided as ours, even in a country as divided as ours, politics can and does move forward. The auto industry was one example. Immigration reform may be another. But these compromises happen only when motivated coalitions build movements strong enough to bring their opponents to the negotiating table. So an annual conference is only as good as the activity it launches. So for our part, the Blue-Green Alliance is pledging to go forward from this conference, committed to a national campaign that connects climate solutions and job creation, whether a federal legislative approach or smart EPA regulatory activity on power plants. This was the path that rebuilt the auto industry, and it's the path that can rebuild America. Thank you.